Good morning and welcome, Caroline Lizotte. It is an absolute pleasure to welcome you here and to talk today about your works and um, and we just thank you so much for your time. As you know, I started a new series for the American Harp Society to help all the young harpists who are preparing for the 2023
Mhm.
competition, and two of your pieces are actually on the repertoire list, which is very exciting. So I want to talk about those and a number of other things too. But I wanted to get started just by introducing you officially. You're a French Canadian harpist and composer, and your works have been played around the world, including at festivals and competitions. And these two pieces are on the American Harp Society 2023 competition list. It's a Suite Galactique and Odyssée, which we're going to talk about in depth today. And in addition, your works are considered among the most influential in the harp repertoire of the 20th and the 21st century. But that's not all. You
Mm.
also have a very long career as a soloist, chamber musician, and as an orchestral harpist, as the second harpist. Um, I'm not going to butcher the French, but the Symphony Orchestra of Montreal for 23 years. You also started your own publishing company in 1999, and you're a longtime professor of harp, and you're frequently invited to give master classes and recitals around the world. And again, it's just such a great honor to speak with you today. And we thank you for your time. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you. It's an honor for me too.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much.
So I wanted to get started today. And talk about, sort of focus on your orchestra work, actually. First, orchestra and orchestration. I mean, it's such a treat to speak to a composer who is a harpist, right? So I want to
Mm.
get a little bit of background information. So, has your long career as an orchestral musician influenced your compositions?
Oh my God. Of course, yes. Yes, because even though I start composing around the age of 11, 12, uh, and I had no career at all, like the day I knew I would be a musician is when I first heard the symphony, playing they were playing the Beethoven Seventh Symphony. I was amazed by the orchestra, and I was maybe 10 years old by then. And I had already a couple of years of piano at the conservatory. And as soon as I entered high school, I took clarinet, and so that I was able to get into the wind symphony, like large wind ensembles.
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
I've been playing with the junior, senior bands, stage bands, and I had also a professional one that was doing competition. When I returned to the conservatory in harp as my major instrument, then I was in addition able to play with the orchestra there, so like the harp with the orchestra. So in addition to playing with all the wind ensembles, and then I was playing at the conservatoire with the harp. So I was in heaven. Like I was always rehearsing, always immersed in these big ensembles. And I think that being in the center of the action, hearing all the instruments, all kind of scores, gave me a lot of ideas. Like I've heard so many instruments, and also the works I've played and created afterwards with in my career as a musician, like professionally. So I've heard so many structures, modes, and combinations. So like I think that my long career in orchestra is hidden at the bottom of each work, because when I hear my first piano pieces, my first piano opuses, and my opuses of today, I realize how much I still feel like I'm hearing an orchestra behind. Like from my very first wind ensembles to the Montreal Symphony, uh, it's an immersion. So I think it influenced a lot, like my compositions, of course.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, that's excellent. And it's fascinating to hear too. Um, so from a harpist perspective, what are your favorite orchestral harp parts? And what are the ones that you consider most important? like that every professional harpist should just have in their fingers in case you get that emergency phone call, right? So your
Yeah.
favorites, and then the really important ones that every harpist should know.
Yeah, it's exactly what happened this summer. Like Montreal Symphony called me back, like, Caroline, can you do La Mer La Valse today? Okay, let's go. La Mer, Debussy, La Mer, and Ravel La Valse. But
Right.
I get there. But yeah. To answer your first question, my favorite one, I think, like it's literally the very first one I played, and it's really rare. But probably like more, but it's rarely played here. It's Masque and Bergamasque by Gabriel Fauré. I love this one. I have never replayed this a second time on my all orchestra life. I have played and replayed the major repertoire, but I never replayed this small orchestra suite in which a delicate harp part is hidden in the fourth movement called Pastoral. It's a beautiful harp part. Fauré, the Fauré is Gabriel Fauré is an angel. He's a composer, and I call him an angel.
Yeah.
Like it's everything that he writes is just like, oh, and there was a super beautiful harp part in that Masque and Bergamasque. But the three previous movements are tangent. This is not new, so we have to be patient in the orchestra when we are harpists, and that's kind of where I'm going with your question. And the excerpts we need to keep in shape, especially because we often have to play them when our hands and concentration are cold after waiting a long time. So, but not only for that, but that's one of the major points, that we have to wait so much. But for the more participative hard parts, the ones that I prefer are those all in the Puccini's opera.
Yes.
I really love these hard parts, and of course all in the Mahler Symphony, all of them.
Yes.
For me, it's just a treat to play that, like Puccini and Mahler. Of course, that I couldn't name a lot, but if I spontaneously, I would say like these. And in terms of excerpts that I think are among the most important to have ready in fingers, I could list quite a lot here. I would say for orchestral works with, for example, two harps, like I said, Debussy La Mer, Ravel La Valse, Holst The Planets, Bartók Concerto for Orchestra, Berlioz Symphonie Fantastique, and I would say Ravel, Alborada del Gracioso. It's a tricky one, like for the two harps. Like these are the ones like for the two harps to get like as the second and the principal. Like it's like we need to have these in our fingers, and like for as a solo part, like when the harp is required only like for just one harp, like works with one harp. Of course, all that I mentioned, the ones that I just mentioned, but also like Britain, Young Person's Guide to the Orchestra. Yes, of course, this one. And curiously, I don't know if it's the same for you, but like it's never asked in audition, but the very first team, the first page of this work, it's kind of very hard. These big chords, like all the movings, but it's never asked. But I feel that's like it's, oh my God, it's not easy, this one. And of course, Strauss, Don Juan. One that I think it's a very important part. It's Ravel, Ma Mère Loi. Mother Goose, that you call it. Yeah. It's not difficult, but it's super exposed.
Yeah.
Like especially les entretiens de La Belle et la Bête. Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Yeah.
This one. Ravel, Tzigane, of course. Verdi, La Forza del Destino, of course.
Yeah.
Rank, Symphonie in D, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And Strauss, a lot of Strauss, but seven, the dance of la danse des sept voiles, Dance of
Yeah,
seven vice,
Dales. Yeah.
seven, yeah. All of the Strauss, of course, like I would say.
Excellent. That'll keep us busy for sure.
Ah, yeah.
There's always so much to learn and so much to keep going.
Yeah.
Turning this around a little bit to the composer side, what are some of your favorite ways to orchestrate with harp? Like when you compose, and when I say orchestrate, it's not only like in an orchestra, but like how you orchestrate solo music, how you think about the harp or think about composing for the harp. Can you share
Mm.
something about that with us?
Yeah. I mean, in solo, I feel my compositions to be like in an orchestral, like for me, a harp is an orchestra, is an orchestra, like, but I like to use the harp, like not in my solo, it's different, but in the orchestra or a chamber or transcriptions or I think we have to understand what the harp can offer, like the best, like I don't know how to say, like I offer that no other instrument can reproduce, like such as glissandi, arpeggios, harmonic sounds, arpeggio chords, like this texture, this like these harp specific colors produce a kind of light and shadow and water in the orchestra. And well, we have only to think of Debussy, Le Faune. This is an excellent. I forgot to say about this one. Yes, like this one has to be always ready, like
Right.
of course the first hard part, but yeah, like you in the phone, it's the afternoon of a phone, it's crazy. It's just the glissandi and second hard part, take the big arpeggio chord, like not the big, but it's just a slightly arpeggio, but it's so magic, it's so done for the harp, like it's so no other instrument can reproduce that. So and the harmonic sound, like I was saying, like all of these little details for me, it's proper to the instrument, so it's fun to use it, like, and to make it shine. But also I love especially like all of the solid full octaves and fifths in the low register, such as Sostakovich would do, like in every of his symphonies. And for me, this is very, very particular color. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm. Excellent. Oh, that's
Mhm.
beautiful. Would you have any advice for non-harpists about how to orchestrate for the harp? Like maybe something that they overlook and that you recognize because you're a harpist, but maybe somebody who's not a harpist, either like something to do or something not to do, maybe as you've heard and played non-harpist compositions. Any kind of
Yeah,
orchestral tips for them?
yes. But I mean, like in 2022 now, like I think a lot of the composers now that understands that when the orchestration is really heavy, the harp will not come true. Like so I think it's been like I think it will be still a problem. Like I think it goes with the explorations, but that's what I would say. Like for most of the composers, like it's just like when you want to hear the harp, like you make sure that your orchestration is a set to welcome the sound of the harp and welcome all that I've mentioned. The special water, shadow, light that the harp is producing. So that there are topics that maybe I would like to mention is the low register of the harp, the resonance, the sympathetic resonance of the instrument, and also like the more contemporary effects that sometimes, like, again, it's it's just a matter of the orchestration, like to have the low notes. If even though like we doubled in octave, it will always remain dark, you know. Our top register is really brilliant, is really like shining, but our low register, because of the length of the strings, because of just the resonance of them, like it doesn't come through an orchestra. So I think the best is to use this color when the actual orchestra is dark as well. Like it's like a we could stand out numerous examples in the Saint-Saëns danse macabre.
Mhm.
Like in the middle section, we have all of the arpeggios, and and for some reason, like it's super heard. It's in the low register. The arpeggios in the low register. By the way, like I'm thinking, like for all the non-harpist composers, I would tell them, like, listen a lot to French music, like to Bizet, to Saint-Saëns, de Ravel, Debussy, because they were in the center spot, like at the end of the 19th century. They were there, with the instrument and trying the instrument in the proper way. And they've been trying things, I'm sure, like we were not there. But I mean, like listening a lot to the French music and the French score, studying the French scores, orchestra scores, it's always a good tip, yeah, I think. Like the writing the pedals, to my thought, like a lot of composers understand more and more the function of the pedals and everything, that I think it's okay now. But sometimes they are writing the pedals in the part, but sometimes it's not the good one, or it's not at the proper place, or like it's all of that pedals kitchen. I think it should be done by the harpist, to my point of view, like, and it's also good for us to to make our pedal system, so.
Absolutely. Yeah, when I talk to composers, I tend to say, look, keep track of them yourself while you're working on the piece so that you know that it's playable, but let us take care of it. Unless it's like for a
Yeah.
recording session or something where there's no time for the harpist to actually mark it in, then, we need a little guidance, if we don't have the part ahead of time.
Yeah,
But in general, I think every harpist has their own way of doing it, which pedal
yeah,
to put on the top or the bottom to use the
yes,
syllables or to use the letters, so
absolutely.
it's a very individual things. I was into colors for a while, so I would do my pedals in a certain color, and and
Oh,
yeah, it's good advice for composers. So all of this is really excellent. So now, if we can, I'd like to move on to like specifically to your compositions. So when you compose, do you compose on paper first, or do you do like the physical and mental things in your mind come first? Like, or does it vary from piece to piece? Like, what is your compositional process like?
I think it's more. I don't write right away. I don't write. I memorize a lot. I mean, I start composing, as I said, like 11, 12 years old. Like at that time, like when you are that age, you don't consider yourself seriously a composer. You're more, you're rather self-taught, like. And my first composition, like before I was able to write them down, it took me a couple of years, because I memorized all in my head, like more than 20 opuses in piano, before I was kind of able to write it. And it's funny because my husband he says something like I really like. He says, you compose if I translate like word to word, like you compose like like the forest, the trees and forest that grows, like a tree rises and then another comes and carve its place nearby, and like we're welcoming the unexpected, taking care of every idea that comes, like, and everything is matter, and I think for every composer is that, like, you welcoming the inspiration, and then you grow, like, and so yeah, I mean, for me, it's I don't necessarily like um, I developed a lot of memory when I was a kid, and I still do the same, like I did that. I had to remember like so much, like, and I was able to write my music at 14 years old, but since I was 11, I had all that in my memory. But as soon as I entered the conservatoire in harp and have more theoretical knowledge, more and more, then I said, okay, let's go, let's do it. I will write all of my scores, and then I continue. So to answer your question, yes, I can hear a lot in my head, but as of today, with the harp especially, I do a lot of exploration, physical exploration on the instrument at first, and then when I'm happy with my mind, I write. But of course, like everyone, like when I have an idea quick like this, or I dictaphone myself, or I write a couple notes on the score, like just to have a gabarit, or like to a pedal setting. So most of the time it's the pedal setting that I write, like just to make sure that, oh yeah, it's that pedal setting, I like it, a pedal system.
Oh, that's fantastic. Wow. And can you tell us about the two pieces that are on the repertoire list? Like what
Mm.
inspired you to write the Suite Galactique and the Odyssey?
Hmm. I would say freedom. It was totally, as I mentioned earlier, the present moment is my kind of my engine. So my works are very, very close to my emotions, and between Odyssey and Suite Galactique, there's a gap of 10 years actually. It's even the Opus 37 and Opus 39. In life there were a gap there of 10 years because Odyssey was written when I was studying, when I was at the conservatoire, like at school, and Suite Galactique has been composed when I was in full career. So it's totally two different kind of freedom. For Odyssey, I remember the situation was that the conservatory direction, like say like they didn't allow me to present my own composition for my recital. So my harp teacher, Nathalie Teven, and my harmony writing teacher, like Pierre Cody, was my harmony teacher at that time. Like and of course we know Pierre Cody. I had this chance to have him, but he pushed me also, him and Natalie, like they wrote a letter to the administration, like thanks to their support, I had the freedom to compose and write Odyssey. So that was I was so happy to present this again. And Suite Galactique, the freedom was just a little bit different because it was more the freedom in my agenda, I would say, because that was the end of the year 90s. I was very, very busy playing. Sometimes I would take my harp out of my place 35 times a week. So I was so busy, and generally in the month of August for musicians in Quebec at that time in the year 2000, there were no orchestra. Like musicians were off. So did I. My harp stayed all the month of August in my apartment, so I did, and I locked myself totally free, and I composed the Suite Galactique in 1 month. So it's just like freedom,
That's
you know.
amazing. Oh
Yeah,
my, oh my
you never tell, you never know. So a work can take 3 years to do, 5 years. A work sometimes it takes an afternoon. Some composers compose in one afternoon a song like this. You never know with inspiration.
Exactly. Wow. Um, do you have any tips for harpists who are learning the Suite Galactique? We'll take it one piece at a time. You
Okay.
you have been so generous with your time. You've met. I teach, as you know, at the University of Miami at the Frost School of Music, and you've visited us twice on Zoom, once for each piece, because I have students who are preparing for the competition, and you just shared so many wonderful tips and things, and we're very grateful for that. Are there anything like I know you have done master classes at other schools as well. Like, are there certain things that come up that you would like the young harpists who are preparing for the competition to know about? Like certain things like make sure to do this or don't do that, or make sure you don't misinterpret something. Just any tips you might have about the Suite
Suite
Galactique.
Galactique, you see, or
Yeah.
in Suite Galactique, one of the things that I would mention is like especially the learning of the second movement. Like when it's time to sing, the tendency is that harpist wants to jam pack everything in the same time, you know, like in the learning. I would say the best is to learn the harp part first super well, like, and to be completely comfortable with the music, notes, speed, and everything before you sing, you know, before you start the singing of it. Because people sometimes are shy to sing, you know, like we have to understand that the voice is not, we're not soprano or tenor, you know, we're just like a mermaid, like fitting in the music. So like the hard part is really consistent and it sounds, it rings, you know, it's water there, totally. The harp is the ocean, totally there. So the voice like just come above, like it's a mystery. It's like you imagine a mermaid, you know, like so that's why the harp has to be like, the harp part has to be very, very confident, solid, at tempo, and then you're able to take your voice and have the good phrasing, good breathing, good singing, and you're less shy also. So if the harpist like learned like properly and good steps, that will be and also that I would say, I think it's important as a harpist, we are always at the top registers or the low registers. We got to know these ledger lines, you know, we've got to know them a lot. It's not always written 8 VA and reading in the stuff, you know, like know your notes. And then Suite Galactique, because it's a manuscript and everything, you know, like it's important that you don't guess them, you count them, because I see often there's just bad readings just because oh, what might be a G? No, it's a B. You know, and like for both staff, you know, for the lower staff, upper staff, it's the same. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the.
Excellent. Very, very good advice. And if I could just share a little something with you too. One of my students, who you met, who is doing this piece, was very hesitant and a little bit anxious about the singing part of it. And so she did it. And she got more and more comfortable. And in our lesson yesterday, we were studying Bach. She's doing the lute suite, the Prelude, Fugue, and Allegro, BWV 998. And she started singing because I said, "Oh, isn't that like a counter melody?" And she's like, "Yeah." And so she was playing and started singing the what line was important. And I attribute it to her experience of playing your piece and working with you, because you tried to really get her more comfortable with that. And so I thank you for that. I really think it
Oh, that's
has influenced her and helped her a lot outside of your piece as well. So
that all of our teachers, they always said to us like,
great.
sing the melody. So if Galactic can give a help, that's bad. That's good.
Excellent, excellent. And likewise, what are some tips you would offer for the Odyssey?
What do you say? Odyssey, like I would say, like even though I mean, like we have to be careful with Odyssey for the rhythmic, I think. Like what I've seen with years, like the rigor of the rhythmic, because like even if the work seems to be like pretty square, like 16 notes, steady, happy, there are changes, you know, there are, especially the first page, you know, like the last two systems of the first page, like it alternates between 2 4 and 3 8. And so like the analyze, we have to make sure to analyze well the rhythmic, because there are 64th in the Odyssey. There are 30 seconds, yeah, but there are 64th. So like it's important to analyze them super well, because like it's not just like doing arpeggios. Like we have to understand the rhythmic. Like it's pretty steady. It's a remark to pay attention to that, like to make sure that the value also when you pass from 2/4 to 3/8, to make sure that 8 note equals 8 note. Like it's not because it's 3/8 that it changed the tempo. No, the tempo is the same all the time. It's just like the value, like at a rhythmical value, like it's important. And I often suggest to put down the harp and beat the measure like a conductor, and then solfège, sing the rhythm at least 10 times without mistakes before you put the harp on your shoulder and play it. So that just like it cleans the brain, like to make sure that it's understood all the rhythmical changing in the Odyssey. It takes a lot of endurance, Odyssey. So
It,
like
it, that's excellent advice. And something I've been working on with my students is having that rhythmic foundation allows you to be musically free, if it makes any sense. And what I suggest, because you have the wonderful recordings. I think it's one of your projects, right? You're trying to record all of your harp pieces, and so you're I think this is your first recording, right? That you've
yes.
really is fantastic, and both of these pieces are on that recording. And so I work on your own, get it right, secure everything, and then listen to her interpretation of it, which is actually it's rhythmically accurate, of course, but it's also so expressive and free and phrased. So musically phrased. So, but you have to have that rhythmic foundation that you're talking about before you can go to that next step. So your recordings have been a great inspiration for them too. And I'm saying, don't copy her, of course, but just see the freedom, see how you can tell the rhythm, and they're exact, but also how she phrases the rhythm, which is one of my big things that I like to teach. So it's really how you write is so beautiful, because it allows for that kind of musical expression as long as you have a solid foundation. So I'm glad you mentioned that. I wanted to ask a little bit too. So you've written for the electric harp as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that, like how you became interested, what you're doing with that?
Yes, my God. Like the electric harp, that's my interest in the electric harp dates back since a long time. I'm a real fan of rock bands since my adolescence, like a teenage.
Right, adolescence.
If my father was a magnificent dramatic tenor, like he was an opera singer, but my older brother he's still like a heavy metal singer. So like I had the two opposite totally. So I was even a keyboardist and playing keyboard in his band. And there were a couple songs that I used to play the harp, like with my brother in the heavy metal band. And for the harp, being able like to pass in a heavy metal section, bands, no need to say that we need to amplify the instrument. So like I start my explorations in electric harp in the 90s. So and I think like after that, like I have explored a lot, but I was just like an acoustic harp with amplification, because I didn't like the harp, like the electric harp began to be more and more electroacoustic harp, if I should say. They were more and more present at the beginning of the millennium, yeah. So they were more from the year 2000, but before that it was kind of a more exploration. So on my side, I start like in the 90s, and I wrote the metal dances that like 3 metal dances that I wrote for electric harp at that time in 1995. I write after that I said to myself, oh my God, I've got to have an electric harp. And I pile my money up like to one day have one. So I knew what I wanted already, because I wanted not only a harp that amplified the sound, but that could be like extremely versatile in a sense. So because I did a lot of exploration before. So for me, it was that I was looking for something very special. But and also at the beginning of the 2000, 2003, 2004, I was still continuing to play with my amplified harp in a techno electro band called Eden Sensis, like for several years. Like, and I collaborate with his founder, Guy Pelletier, who is the co-writer with me to the Concerto Techno that I wrote in 2003. I finally ordered a Big Blue with a Camac Big Blue in 2013, and I got it in 2015. Jacques François had accepted the challenge of making a Big Blue model with a chrome mirror finish, like super impressive. Like it took 2 years for me to receive it in Quebec, but nevertheless, I had started to compose Stellae Saltantem for 2 harps. My first official work that I had the electroacoustic harp with me to compose with. And of course, I wrote the sonata, Stellar Sonata afterwards, the last big sonata for harp. So like I give myself the mandate to contribute to the official repertoire for this instrument particularly. It's a very an instrument to explore and to fix a major repertoire. It gives so much other possibilities, electronic possibilities, you know, more than just an amplified harp.
Right, with all the different colors and effects.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's fantastic. A couple of last questions. So, what I've noticed and what my students have also noticed is that your pieces, while they're really challenging, they feel good to play. So, like in other words, it reminds me like when you play Grangenet's works or his transcriptions or original compositions, you know, how the way that things fit in the hand and feel natural and make the harp sound the best that it can sound, you know, and this idiomatic way of playing gives the harpist a joy in addition to the joy of playing your pieces. I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but do you have any thoughts about that? I mean, naturally you're a harpist composer, so this comes naturally, but it's almost like you put, whether consciously or subconsciously, an emphasis on like this feels good to play, or this is idiomatic, you know, for I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yes, of course, Laura. I mean, it's I think that harpist composers give this satisfaction of comfort because to the performance, it's each note has been validated, like harpist proof, you know, like it, and we know how to highlight the instrument. And I think it's funny that you say Grangeny because I studied, like when I first studied the pedal harp, like I was with Dorothy Weldon Mazzola, who was 40 years at the Montreal Symphony before Jennifer Swartz, and she was a former student of Grangeny, and of course I've learned the Grangeny technique. And then I studied, like after Madame Mazzola, Nathalie Teven who was a student of Madame Mazzola, but also Nathalie studied like Cleveland Institute with Michel Ifou for she did her master there. So I had like this kind, both of them. I had French technique and I had also Salzedo technique because I also studied like with Michel Ifou. I remember like when we were doing the National Youth Orchestra in Canada, they used to send a harpist at Salzedo School in Camden, Maine. After my conservatoire, I went to Eastman School with Miss Bride, with Kathleen Bride. So back to basis, back to the Grangeny technique, which is funny because she always say, "Oh, you look like Grangeny," you know, because you use an harmony everywhere. He kind of pushed the bounds himself, like Grangeny. I know Salzedo did a lot, but Grangeny, we always think like, oh, is more, you know, like French music proper. No, he was pretty. He was ahead too, like in his style. He pushed further the harp. Like for example, like just in Pavane et Branle, Grangeny. Like he used the lower string, like he scordatura the lower string in B. And for me, it's the same thing. Like it's rare that all my pieces I use always the two last notes. I always do a special tuning or scordatura. Like as for grand genie, it's important, like to have the whole harp, like even the two lower strings, they are important. Very, very. Anyway, like all that to say, like it's I think it's the comfort, like for a harpist composer, like to write for a little bit like I don't know if you know works by Leo Brouwer, who's a composer, a guitarist composer, and every guitarist play Leo Brouwer because it's guitarist proof, like it's guitar proof music, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. I'm on several, I've been on several of the doctoral committees for the classical guitar students here. And you are right. Everybody always plays it and it's beautiful music. So the word that comes to mind when you talk about like Grage's writing and your writing, it's like you orchestrate for the harp, even if it's just a solo harp piece. Does that sound like a way to describe it? Like,
Yeah.
like you say that we think of, oh yeah, nice, that isn't Grajene's music, nice French music. But in a way, his innovation, I think, is like he was orchestrating for it, meaning like he was, like you said, showing all the colors, showing what you can do, being innovative and how to play it and how to compose for it. And I think of your music as very similar in that regard too.
That's probably because of the French technique, and both the Salcedo technique, like Salcedo also brought a lot of innovative things, innovative colors, and it's a way to orchestrate. It's totally, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
We are the orchestra, the harp. Yeah.
I love that. We come back to a theme from the beginning of our interview, which is wonderful. And just one last thing. When I was talking with my students, again, we were listening to your recordings, and I mean, your music is so expressive. It's modern, the modern language, but it's also expressive. And then when we listen to your recordings, the word that kept coming to mind is like, she's a romantic, meaning she's, and I don't mean that like you're from the romantic period or you write in that style, but just your music is so naturally musically expressive or organically expressive. I don't know how to put it, but does that kind of ring a bell? Does that sound familiar to you, or is that like a misunderstanding on our part? I mean this as absolutely as a compliment.
No, but I mean
there's a freedom in it as well as the modern structure and modern harmonic language.
You're right in a sense, but because romantic, they allowed expression a lot, post-romantic, they opened the door to the freedom in a sense, like their emotion, they were, like it. And I'm very touched actually that you say romantic, because my music comes from my heart since I'm my childhood, Indeed, I was talking about my father, but my father, like he died at 42. I was 11. That's why I began to compose. I was still very young, and his passing was a terrible shock. And all my first opuses in piano were kind of the musical letters to my father. They were all super short pieces, but it was a way to, because I was saying in the beginning, I had a couple of years at the conservatoire in piano. My father was super sick and he died. I stopped everything. And then the first thing I did after his death is just I opened the piano back and played. And with intuition, with emotion. So for me, the romantics, it's kind of a liberation, like the romantic period. All these composers, like they have liberated human feelings through their music, poetry, also. So it's a way to transmit the emotion. So that was the same for me. So when you say that I'm a romantic, I totally agree in a sense, because like it's just a matter of emotion and feelings, and because I don't feel I am so modern in a sense. I feel that I'm pretty much tonal. I don't feel like I am that much modern. I would say that I'm still classical, but classical, romantic, dramatic, but like of course we're modern, but if we make the analysis of my works, we are doing a lot of plagal cadenzas more than like and we are following modes, sometimes Lydian, Dorian modes. So
Maybe we could say that you're rhythmically modern in a way, because you use rhythm in such fresh,
yeah,
into my ears, very modern way. So maybe
yeah,
that's like the
yeah,
modern
yeah.
element we could.
That sounds like I use them in some in the audace. It's audacious sometimes, the way that the chords are going, like shall we say mode earn
Oh, that's
mode.
fantastic.
I,
Well,
I I play a lot with mode. I love modes. Yeah.
yeah. I'm really glad we're talking about this, because I want the students to be able to put themselves into your music, to interpret the music and feel confident that they can be expressive with it, right? Because it is
Yeah,
challenging music, and we need to get it to a certain point before we can do that. But I just wanted them to hear it from you
yeah.
that this is emotional music, and it's okay to, it's
I'm a composer, but I'm an interpret also.
exactly. Good. Excellent. Excellent. So I'm going to touch just in closing on a couple different things. So you are also, as I said, a longtime teacher, and you started your own publishing company, and you're also a big proponent of mentoring. I noticed with my students when they bought the music, you personalize every single piece that people purchase from you. Can you tell? I think that's such a wonderful touch. Can you tell us about that?
Oh my God. It's so funny this. I love this. I mean, les éditions Calyane, Calyane editions, like they exist like since 25 years now. And I think I have always wanted to be in contact with the harpists who play my works, like just first to express my gratitude to them, like for their interest and interest and encouragement, if I would say. And I always be ready also to answer their questions. I know everyone, and I remember when I see a name since 1999, when I see a name, oh, I remember this name, because the contact is like having my own company. It's just like it's like a family, we get to know the harpist. So with the years, like maybe 15 years, I start like creating to craft sparkling colors on the scores, and I noticed that that it is an incredible like craze, like in a so I decided to maintain this concept afterwards, and they can and now like people like I've seen, like I've been to the World Harp Congress this summer, like, and I had an exhibition stand, and you should have seen the harpists. They were all in line to tell me, like they were buying scores, and they would buy scores, and they were in line and asking, like, okay, I will come back tomorrow, and can you do purple for me? Can you do green for me? Can you do? So I was going back with my husband with the scores that they bought and during the day, sparkles them that night, and then come the time they dry and come back the next day, and they would come in line, like, okay, this is for you, this is for you, they put a little note. That was so sweet. I mean, it's a gift, like it's for me a piece of music is a gift. Like it's also another objective reason for that, because like today the sheet music are no longer appreciated than before. I mean, no longer. I mean, not as much as before. We copy a lot. We receive a lot of scores in PDF format. We have almost no more contact with, like an open score on 2 page. My God, 2 pages score music. That's where I'm going from. Like it's a musical piece for me is a gift, like that you can touch and spend hours, like and years with, like as a friend. It's like a good book that you always proud of having read and and put in your library, like so that's why I'm happy to decorate the score with and the harpist happy to receive them too with a color of their choice, like a personal note like in the score. So I think I think when you receive a score like this also, like it's a, you don't want to lend the copy to a colleague to make photocopies, and it takes away the taste, and it's fun to receive a score by the composer, like with a signed copy, just the dedication between the composer and the interpret.
Absolutely. My students just light up when when they first saw it, and every time they talk about it, they just absolutely light up. So it's really much appreciated what you do. So just I think in closing, maybe just if we could touch on what's happening in the future for you. I believe you mentioned you're going to be attending an American Harp Society event. Did you want to talk about that and maybe some of your future recordings or compositions, whatever you'd like to share with us about what's going on for the future?
Yeah, like of course I'm preparing the album, which is a big deal because I need an orchestra because I will be recording the concerto techno, metal dances, the dance metal dances, and all of the eclectic stuff. Like that would be my second album. So like it's a big one because of an orchestra like is involved. So like I'm working on this very important project right now. Aside, I have a few commission like the one I'm working on right now. It's the commissioned by Laurie Gemmell, harpist in Canada, and Etsuko Kimura, violinist. A piece like for violin harp. Like it's a commission piece, and also I have a work, a solo work by harpist commissioned from Heather Cornelius, and also a project of flute and electroacoustic harp by like commissioned by Noel One, actually, like who won the Bloomington, and her partner Daniel Nutting. So like I'm happy to be in my music and transcriptions also. It's so a lot of things.
Fantastic. It's very exciting. And did you say you were going to be at the American Harp Society? Is it the next event that they have coming up? Yep.
Yes,
Can
I
you,
will.
so
Yes, I
they,
will. I will be there like for the summer institute. Yes, from June the 1st to 4th. So yes, and I will play Stellar Sonata, the last work, like for electroacoustic harp. There will be like workshops and compositions and a lot of things, many things. Like I don't know every of the details now, but I mean, I'll be there for sure.
that's fantastic. So I'm sure that they will be looking for you. So again, thank you. You've been incredibly generous, not only working with my students, but meeting with me here today and sharing all this with the American Harp Society. We are eternally grateful for you. And we're also eternally grateful that your music has become part of our canon now. Your music is an established part of harp repertoire, and we just feel so fortunate to have your voice and your compositions in
Yeah,
harp
I'm
repertoire.
fortunate too. Like I think the harpists are the best. And thank you so much also for yeah, Laura, for your dedication and your like this is so constructive. Taking time to tell a harpist what are the tips like for the works. What like this is so beautiful.
Well, it's really important. I'm just a natural born teacher, I guess. I just really want to share with everybody what I've been trying to find as a teacher myself to share with my students. So we're so grateful. So thank you very much, and we wish you happy holidays
You
and
too. Happy end of year 2022.
excellent.